Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta what's happening over Japan and how that'll impact Taiwan. Today, I'm going to ask this question: is the meta starting to shake up in Japan? We had a brand new season 2 happening of the City League Championships with the release of Paldea Fates as well. Has it really impacted the format that much? Or are the good, strong, well-established archetypes like Mew, Giratina, and Gardevoir are performing incredibly well, but some under-the-radar picks like Lost Box and Inteleon VMAX with Rapid Strike, it's definitely kind of like creeping into being one of the strongest archetypes right now in the meta. So today we're going to break down the impact of Paldea Fates. Have any of these 26 new cards actually made an impact to the format? And exactly where I think the meta is going to evolve. Has this shake-up really affected what are the best decks? So if we look here at the top 16 breakdown, as it only happened this past weekend, the City Leagues, it was a little bit smaller number. We saw Charizard, Giratina, and Gardevoir be the strongest archetypes, being about 16.3, 13.2, and 11.5% respectively. They're very much the best, representing the metagame, performing incredibly well. A big surprise in this whole metagame right now is Lost Box, who crept in at 11.5%. It's taken over the place of where Roimu has been for about the past month or so. Definitely Lost Box has kind of changed into this more Sablezard sort of package with a Roimu attached to it. We saw Tor do an incredibly unique take, having that Palkia really help you have a really strong attack very much early on in the game. I like how Miraidon and Xianbao, they were the archetypes which are always about 10%, but Miraidon performed incredibly well this past weekend, and Xianbao only was a 3.8% represented. Palkia was at 3%, because Palkia's been incredibly well. After Luke Kirkham's astonishing run with Ice Rider, a lot of people kind of like going in more of the Palkia build. It's going really well in the likes of Golden Go. It's also going really well in just having Ice Rider, and she empowers other very strong attacking option. So I do think that Valiant is here to stay. It definitely isn't the numbers, and people really expect it to do incredibly well after LEIC. Being about 3.8% isn't too bad, but it's the same number as what she empowers at. Even Mew is at 4.5, which honestly, it had the best weekend Mew has done. Mew is one that had so many good wins, so many good opportunities Mew had this past weekend, which is what I really like to see. I love how the meta is shaking up. We've seen that Sableye with Comfy's sort of archetype was constantly one of the most played archetypes. It disappeared a lot with Iron Hands, but Iron Hands hasn't had the most success, and the success a lot of people wanted. So as it's been unchecked and had a very, very good new TM kind of being printed, which really helped this sort of matchup, it goes all the way to 11.5%. That's one thing I love about the Paradox Drift metagame. It's constantly evolving and constantly changing. This can be shown just by looking at what are the top placing archetypes in this, and we'll play in the top 6 ones. We saw here that Lost Tina was the #1 archetype, still kind of up there, but it replaced Gardevoir going down to #3. Mew snuck in there at the #2 spot. We can see here that, yes, there's not really that many sort of results from Mew, like not really that many high top 8 placements, but we can see here that it's still very, very powerfully represented. That can say the same about Charizard as well as Lost Tina. These archetypes are very, very well represented in top 16, and you can really see that sort of result really play out in the results. Rapid Strike snuck in there with 2 wins, 2 second places, the top 5 top 4s, and 5 top 8s. So Rapid Strike was definitely here to stay. It did incredibly well in this sort of past weekend. It was very much one of the strongest archetypes and probably a really good dark horse. What I love about this is we saw Miraidon come back into this metagame. People are playing a bit more Iron Hands, who probably looked at the metagame and went, hey, not many people are really decking for these Lost Box. That's why Lost Box was 11%. So having that Iron Hands in there really helped you with that Miraidon, really helped you in that matchup. Like I said, Miraidon and Tina, they're the only decks which actually play Path to Peak. So having these sort of decks here, which are constantly focused on Path to Peak as our main sort of steam card of choice, it's really good to see that, because all of the rest of these require a ton of Path to Peak engine. Yes, Mew, I know, plays Path to Peak, but it's one of these decks that plays Path to Peak as like a last sort of resort. It just like plays at the end of a turn and always has a way to bump it the next sort of way. So I like that this metagame has shifted. We're seeing like the top sort of 3 decks right now change their position about where they've been. None of them are in the same place, but Charizard being there at the #5 spot for 2 weeks in a row, definitely something to think about. Like, is Charizard being performing as well as possible? So right now, let's break down some of the top placing archetypes, and there's a ton of creativity right this past weekend. But I want to start by looking at Rapid Strike. Rapid Strike is doing very, very well. This is very similar to Rahul Reddy's sort of list. What I like about it, there was 3 very new strong cards came out from Paradox Drift. The Professor Churro Scenario, that Devolution TM, and of course, Earthen Vessel. Earthen Vessel is just that much stronger than Energy Surge. Yes, I know we can get these from the likes of Arvin, but getting 2 energies for the price of 1 is just very, very strong. What I love also about the Devolution TM, because you're going to be using your double gunner ability, putting the damage counters everywhere on the field there. This is a really good sort of attacking option. So whatever is in the active spot, you can instantly get cheeky KO on likes of some Curly's going on there, as well as also some likes of Charmeleons. or even Charmanders if there's some around there as well. And the Professor Churro just helps you in that stall sort of matchup. We saw that Snorlax stall is becoming very much a strong archetype. It did get a win over there in Japan. It is doing very, very well in online tournaments, and obviously it's made a top 8 appearance in nearly every single event that's happened right now over in the West. So it's definitely something to be considerate about. So that Churro just help you in that matchup, as well as also having that escape rope. So you do have multiple ways out against stall, but you only have 2 outs to it, which can in fact really help you as long as you play a ton of attacking options as well in this list. And that's one thing I love about Rapid Strike. It's snuck back in and under anyone's radar, which is what I think this deck does incredibly well. What I like about here, we saw Mew. Like I said, Mew is doing very, very well right now in this format. Over in Japan, they still really focus more on the Fusion Strike sort of build, playing the likes of 2 Meloettes and an Ice Cube, really focusing on attacking their single pricing, really trying to make your opponent like dig for the sort of win con. So in theory, you can go 2 Meloettes, potentially and a Mew, and then you can go with an Ice Cube or even like 2 Mews and 2 Meloettes. In theory, they have to take additional like 8 prizes just to actually get the game, which is honestly very, very scary if you think about it. Mew is just that much stronger right now in the metagame. We can see the stadium cards of choice. It does play Path to Peak. It does play that sort of heavy disruptive capability. But having that Lost City and the Town Store, it's just very, very good. The Town Store just gain any of your draw cards because you play a ton of them. Getting your Forest or Stone, getting your Boxer Disaster to help you in your Gardevoir matchup. Getting that Choice Belt to really help you against like other sort of Mew decks, and more specifically, other sort of very powerful V archetypes and V stars like the Arceuses and the Garatinas running around. That's why I love that Town Store. So that's also having the Lost City. Lost City to get rid of that cheeky Drapion because well, I've seen, and especially in Japan, not a ton of people are playing Lost Tombs and also a lot of Drapion. So kind of like getting rid of that quite early on. It's very, 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 very powerful. It's slowing down your opponent's win rate at all. You do have a good stall matchup because you play a ton of switching out. So you don't rely too much on having like Professor Churro, which you could in theory, you could put it on there just to like get rid of the likes of your Genesect. But I do think that could be a nice inclusion from you. I think Fusion Build is definitely the strongest way to play it right now. And honestly, it's very, very powerful. What I love about here is this Roaring Moon sort of archetype, and it really focuses more on Roaring Moon. Having 2 of the attacking options there, multiple Claras, multiple Super, so you'll constantly be using these attackers. But you may notice here, you might go, Charlie, why is there this new TM in here? Well, this TM is incredibly strong, especially in Cramorant. I believe it can only be played if your opponent has very low prices. I believe it's only 1 or 2. But if you do, you do 280 damage. This is incredibly powerful. You attach it to a Cramorant, you're doing that for free. You don't need that energy requirements. You tap that to a Charizard, you're also doing it for free if they've taken multiple prizes. That's why I think this is such a strong inclusion in the likes of Sablezard. You have 2 very good attacking options, which you're constantly using and can constantly get back from the likes of Clara as well as some Super Rod. And having this very powerful TM for the late game is just super, super strong. I think it's a very good inclusion. You can even slap this on a Roaring Moon and not rely on Frenzy Gouging to get an easy KO because you've already got that 3 energy attachments for the late game. It's just very, very powerful. It's a very, very strong inclusion in this archetype. I think Lost and Roaring Moon could be the way to play how Lost and Roaring Moon is really going to like evolve into it. I've seen this like the more common way of how Lost Zone is kind of like protecting itself is under likes of Charizard, having quite like high HP. You're not going to be relying on too many pings from the likes of the Iron Valance or the likes of Iron Hands, like getting easy 2 prizes. So Sableye and the likes of Charizard can finally come back, and I really, really love this new build. Another one I want to talk about is another Roaring Moon sort of deck here, and it plays a very, very cool sort of combination. It obviously has Emergency Jelly, so you can do French and Gouging and also heal additional 120 damage, which is very strong, but also Leafeon. Leafeon is very good because it has a very good ability for this first one, and Leafeon V by having an energy attachment, energy acceleration from the deck. So that's another very, very good thing. Helps you for consistency. And you have a Leafeon VMAX. Leafeon VMAX is a very, very good sort of attacking option. It does 180 damage, which is still pretty good. You do have to additionally attach all these energies to it, but you do have your Leafeon V to really help acceleration. But its V-Star ability is a boss's orders. You can have the likes of disrupting capability. You can have the energy acceleration of the likes of Professor Sada or an Iron of the disruption capability, and then do a boss's orders at the end of it. I love this inclusion in the likes of a Roaring Moon archetype. They aren't playing any of the energy switching cards, which we've seen some like tacky sort of Roaring Moon play. But I really like this. I think it's really intuitive. It's looking at the metagame, it's understanding that Roaring Moon did very, very well in the last couple of weeks here. So this is good inclusion. Charizard is the top archetype. So having this sort of Leafeon package is really, really good. You get attack into weakness. That's one of the things I absolutely love about this sort of inclusion. I love how the metagame is constantly shaping up. We can look at Golden Go as well. We've seen for quite a few weeks now, especially if you've been keeping up on looking at results in all the city leagues. Again, if you ever want to keep up with them, link is in the description, so follow them out. You can see that Golden Eagle's main partner recently has been Paldea V-Star. You might go, Charlie, why on earth are we playing Paldea V-Star? Well, Paldea V-Star is an incredibly good inclusion. Now you have both of a full bench, you're doing 260 damage, which is still pretty good. You're nearly one-shotting nearly everything in the metagame. You do have quite a few switching cards that are capable about you, which is good for a Paldea list. But you play Greninja, and you can play Starport to attach those energies onto Greninja. Those energies go into the discard pile, so it makes perfect sense. You can attach them into not only your Golden Eagles, but your other secondary attackers, like your like your Greninja and like your Palkia. These are very, very good secondary attacking options in the list. That's one thing I've struggled with Golden Go is going into single prizes or going into general anything. Golden Go is very, very weak. It's a good sort of draw factor. It's very, very powerful attacking options, but I've noticed you're always like 1 or 2 energies shy whenever you have what you need for like likes of Shi and Pao. Like with Charizard, I believe you need 8 energies to get a KO sometimes. And then with Shi and Pao, you need like 6. So it's a big sort of discrepancy in that sort of capability. But that Greninja can help you do additional more damage later on. They have to forcefully KO a single prizer, but also they're on an odd price or trade. They're not going 2-2-2, they're going maybe 2-1-2-2, which can in theory push you that price rate into your sort of favor, which is why I love about this one. And I love that this Palkia did pretty well, getting a top 4 sort of placement. And you can see the rest of the archetype here. You get like some Iridas to get any of your item cards. You can get any of your water Pokemon as well. It's very, very strong. Good into block clacks as well. So I generally think this is a very, very strong archetype. Potentially could be the new way to play Golden Go and the right way to play it going forward. Now I want to look at this really interesting Lostina list, which got top 4. Again, it's playing Iron Hands. We've covered this belief before in the past, but I honestly think it's such a fun inclusion. Because you are playing Lostina, you're normally going to get that magic 7-minute Lostina as early as going, if you go second, especially in your second turn of the game, because you are going to be using that Abyss Seeking turn 1, so having this Iron Hands in there just makes so much more sense. It doesn't really add into any of just kind of like the reality of the deck. You do rely less on playing your switching cards, your energy, like you take away some of your jet energies, but also your destructive ability with your rocks and Iono. But having this really push you in the mirror match, getting a 2 prize KO on the likes of a Comfey, also a Greninja, or even a Sableye is just very, very powerful. I love this inclusion in this deck. It can become very much a surprise factor as well. But honestly, this could be a new way to have to play Tina. Tina has always been one of these archetypes of Blossom, which has always been very linear. It's been exactly the same sort of way how we've played it for pretty much nearly a year now of it being the format. It's changed a little bit. Path to Peak is very much here to stay. Patina is the best of destructive capability. It's Roxanne Path. Hope your opponent doesn't draw into anything, and whilst you try and build your setup again, I do think it's a fun inclusion in Lostina, but we're going to see how this sort of progresses. And this was the only sort of like different to the build sort of Lostina archetype, but I really thought it was fun to cover us out, especially about it. But I want to look at the last sort of thing. It's like some really, really interesting and unique archetypes. If we look at his Iron Valiant list here, it's very, very powerful. You look at the Entei, look at everything else, you go, oh, it's pretty normal. Then you go, what the heck? Why is there an Ace Roller and why is there a Mimikyu VMAX? We haven't seen a VMAX at all really being played up there, besides the likes of Mew, because they just can't give, and you can't give out any of these free prizes. But this is very, very powerful. Mimikyu VMAX is very, very good. Obviously, it has a very good attack, and likes of Mimikyu V, when you put it down the bench, you can't really be damaged from it, and you can put some damage counters around that. But Mimikyu VMAX is very, very powerful, and you pretty much would use this attack. Obviously, you can use it for a double turbo, but what does it do? Well, it does 3, and you can put 3 damage counters anywhere. Yep, but if you play that Ace Roller supporter, you get to put 12. I believe it's 12, or it's 12 additional, which is just 13 damage counters instead, which is very, very strong. You have putting the likes of your Iron Valance, you get a couple of these in, you get additional 6 damage counters plus the Mimikyu. You're doing 9, like pretty much 90 damage counters anywhere on the board. Is very, very strong. That's why I think it's a very good inclusion in the sort of deck. I think it's very, very powerful. Entei is still a very good attacking option. It has a really good draw factor capability. Mimikyu V, like you put it down the bench, it's not really going to take any damage on it, which is still very, very strong. And then Mimikyu V Max is that good sort of end the sort of game. Put some damage counters anywhere you like. That cleanup, which is what this deck really requires, and might be missing. Do you play a high count for switching sort of cards, but you aren't playing the likes of Jet Energy, which is what you could play in that sort of straightforward Entei and V sort of Iron Valiant. I love how this is included. I love how this Iron Valiant deck is really evolving into this sort of decks here. You still have Charizard, you still have Entei, you still have that Mega Basic, so I still think it's a very strong deck, but Mimikyu just makes that just a little bit more fun. And finally, Esper. Yes, Esper did get a top 16, one of the new sort of EXs that got released on the set. I really like it because it reminds me so much of Evital. EX, one of my favorite sort of cards that's ever been printed, but it's kind of built in the Velocity sort of package. What I love about it is its first attack, making sure that basic Pokemon take an have additional more colors in their sort of attacking options. Team that up with the likes of headquarters could be very, very powerful. They have to have an additional 2 energies to attack, could be very, very strong. If you think about it, the likes of Greninja, having 5 energy attack with Greninja is very, very scary. Saber has 3 energies, which I just think makes it a little bit more stronger. Then 30 plus 30 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. A lot of people thought, oh, why don't I team this up with the likes of Xatu. Xatu is very, very powerful. It's a psychic energy. I can accelerate into these Pokemon, and also I'm now drawing 2 more prizes. Potentially could do well, but they opted to play the likes of Colress and having the draw sort of factor with Lost Zone. I do like this because it gives Cramorant another attacking option. What I don't like is they didn't play a Sableye, which I think could be a lot very much stronger attacking option. But you see, they also played that brand new TM, the TM which has 280 damage if your opponent has only got 1 prize card left. Charts on a Cramorant, all of a sudden you're doing a big 1-hit KO. I love this sort of factor. I love this ingenuity. I love your Tulip to kind of energy accelerate and sort of protect any of your psychic Pokemon and chuck them back in the deck. I think it's a very, very fun archetype. I love this sort of strong sort of deck options. What Pokemon really has thrown to this one. I like that people are actually using the new cards and it's doing okay. I obviously want it to do a little bit better, but it's fun to see that Esper actually did pretty well. It was the only deck to really get into the top 16, but it's still very, very strong. So just looking ahead in the next meta game, can the meta continue to evolve in Japan? We've kind of looked at today that the meta has shaped up. We've seen Gardevoir fall from Grace and Giratina and Rapid Strike box, and even like some Mew kind of like come back into the fray, but doing a lot stronger and getting up higher in their sort of placements over and other best top 6 archetypes. Could we see a brand new deck breakout again? We saw Esper kind of like make it into the fray, but could we see other sort of decks here? Sorrow Box has always been on cards doing pretty okay. Clorf as well. Like these sort of decks are always a little bit under the radar, but could they kind of break out to be one of the strongest good single price decks? Now, will Gardevoir's numbers bounce back? We saw Gardevoir do very, very well. It's very well represented, but didn't get the wins it really needed. What we know the deck can kind of do. But I think Gardevoir's been the most surprising deck in this sort of metagame. We've expected Gardevoir to do incredibly poorly, purely on the basis that we've seen Gardevoir not do as well as we might have thought it to. People were scared about Iron Hands, but Gardevoir has really bounced back and done incredibly well under this metagame, under the rule of Iron Hands. So, hope you enjoyed this looking ahead video. I'm going to be back in a couple of days' time for my Gardevoir EX breakdown, one of my favorite new decks to play right now in the format, and it's doing incredibly well. So tune in for a couple of days' time for that video. If you're new to the video, the channel, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. What are you excited about? How do you think the meta is going to shape out in a couple of weeks' time? Could we see Gardevoir bounce back to be #1, or could some surprise decks like Clove actually do pretty well? I want a brand new archetype that always constantly be week after week entering into the top 6 best decks, and not just a repeat of Gardevoir, Giratina, and Mew and Charizard doing very, very well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in a few days for another one. Bye for now.